The last camper. The fire crackled low, spitting sparks into the cold night air. Tall pines ringed the clearing like black cathedral spires, their branches hissing whenever the wind slid through them. 5 friends sat hunched close to the flames, their faces washed in orange glow, the rest of the forest drowning in shadow. They'd hiked 6 miles off the trailhead to get here, deeper than most campers ever bothered to go. Noah, the one who organized the trip, insisted this was real wilderness. No cell towers, no road sounds, no people for miles. Just them and the silence. The silence, however, was never complete. It had weight, like something alive pressing at the edges. An occasional snap of a twig out in the dark kept them glancing toward the tree line. Even with the fire burning, the forest felt like it was listening. "I've got a story," said Leah, pulling her blanket tighter. She was the smallest of the group, with sharp eyes that always seemed half amused, half anxious. Her voice dropped into a storyteller's cadence, one practiced from years of spooking siblings. "It's one the locals tell, about this very forest." The group leaned in. "Of course you have a ghost story," Tyler muttered with a grin, tossing another log onto the fire. "Isn't that the whole point of being out here? Scare the crap out of us so nobody sleeps." "Exactly," Leah said. Then she lowered her voice even more. "They say these woods have their own ghost. Not one that haunts a house or a road, but the campsites. Any campsite. Convenient," Noah said, trying to sound casual but unable to keep from glancing over his shoulder. Leah went on, eyes flickering with the firelight. "They call him the last camper. Years ago, decades, no one's sure when, there was a guy who wandered out here alone. Some say he was running from something. Others think he just wanted solitude. Either way, he pitched his tent, lit his fire, and was never seen again." "Classic," said Jess, hugging her knees. "Heard that 1,000 times." "No, listen," Leah insisted. "When rangers found his site, everything was still there. Tent, food, even his boots sitting neatly outside the flap. But no sign of him. They searched for days. Dogs couldn't track him. It was like he just walked into the woods barefoot and never came back." "Creepy," said Dylan, his voice cracking just enough to get laughs from the others. Leah leaned closer to the fire, her face half-shadowed. "The story goes that the forest wouldn't let him leave, claimed him, and now he's doomed to wander, forever looking for someone to take his place. They say if you camp deep enough in these woods, the last camper might come to your fire. You'll hear footsteps, but you won't see anyone. He waits at the edge in the dark until one of you goes to bed. Then," she paused, letting the fire crackle. "Then what?" Dylan whispered. "Then you wake up, and someone's missing from your group, just like him. Tent still there, boots still there, everything untouched, except that friend is gone. And the last camper is sitting by the fire in their place." The group sat in uneasy silence. The woods groaned with wind. Somewhere far off, an owl hooted. "Okay, yeah, that's creepy," Tyler admitted, "but also dumb. How would anyone know the ghost's there if he just replaces someone? That makes 0 sense." "That's the point," Leah said. "The forest doesn't care if it makes sense. All that matters is there's always one more missing hiker, and one more ghost." Jess shivered. "Well, thanks. Now I'm never sleeping tonight." "Good," Leah said with a grin. The first night, the story lingered like smoke long after Leah laughed it off. They tried talking about other things. Music, classes, Tyler's disastrous dating life. But each time the fire popped, or a branch cracked out in the woods, they all went quiet. Around midnight, Noah finally stood. "All right, I'm calling it. We're up early for the ridge hike tomorrow." The others reluctantly crawled into their tents, each zipped into their nylon cocoons. The forest pressed close, louder without voices to fill it. Inside his tent, Noah lay awake listening. The wind made the trees sway and creak like old timbers. He almost laughed at himself, spooked by a dumb story. But just as his eyelids began to sink, he heard it. Footsteps, not the scatter of animals, not wind, actual footsteps, slow and deliberate, crunching leaves outside the camp. He held his breath. Then he heard the sound pause right outside his tent. Noah sat up, heart pounding, and reached for his flashlight. He hesitated. What if he didn't want to see? But the silence outside grew heavier, pressing against the thin nylon walls. He couldn't bear it. Click. The beam shot across his tent, casting harsh shadows. He unzipped the flap a crack, just enough to flash the light outside. Nothing. The fire had burned down to embers, painting the clearing in dull red. No one stood outside his tent, and yet, he swore he saw the impression of footprints in the damp earth. Bare footprints. Noah zipped the flap shut fast, lay back down, and told himself over and over that he'd imagined it. Eventually, exhaustion dragged him under. When morning came, Dylan was gone. The disappearance. At first, no one panicked. Dylan was known to wander. Maybe he'd gone to relieve himself or look for water. They called his name, circled the camp. By noon, the mood had shifted. His tent was zipped. His boots sat outside. Inside, his sleeping bag was still warm. The others kept trying to rationalize. He probably just went down to the creek, Tyler said, voice trembling. Or he's messing with us. That's totally something Dylan would do. But when hours passed with no sign of him, their voices grew tight, strained. Leah refused to say it out loud, but she didn't need to. Every time their eyes met, the same thought burned unspoken. The last camper. That night, no one wanted to sleep. They huddled by the fire, nerves fraying with every sound. And again, the footsteps came. This time, they all heard it. Crunch. Slow. Deliberate. Circling the firelight. Dylan, Jess called, voice cracking. If that's you, quit it. You're scaring us. No answer. Just another step. And another. The fire burned lower. Shadows lengthened. Then, from the dark, came a whisper. A man's voice. Hoarse. Barely audible. Cold. The group froze, eyes wide. Who's out there? Noah shouted, trying to sound braver than he felt. Cold. So cold. The voice circled them, just beyond sight. Sounded wrong. Too close, then far, then close again, as if the speaker walked in loops that didn't follow the fire's light. Leah's face had gone pale. She whispered, "He's here." That was all it took. Jess screamed, bolting for her tent. Tyler swore and grabbed the hatchet they'd brought for wood. Noah shouted for everyone to stay calm, but his voice shook as badly as the others. And through it all, the whisper kept drifting. Cold, need warm. The fire sputtered, the flames sinking low. And in that moment of near darkness, Noah swore he saw a figure at the tree lean. Thin, barefoot, face swallowed by shadow. Watching. The second night. They didn't sleep. They couldn't. Each hour stretched taut with fear. By dawn, Jess's tent was silent. They called her name, shook the flap. No answer. Inside, her sleeping bag lay empty, boots untouched. That was when panic shattered them. Tyler cursed, pacing. Leah started crying. Noah's hands shook so badly he could barely pack. They broke camp by mid-morning, desperate to make it back to the trailhead. But the woods seemed to shift around them. Paths looked unfamiliar, landmarks gone. Hours of hiking, and somehow they circled back to the same clearing. The fire pit was cold, but it was theirs, their campsite. No, Leah whispered. It won't let us leave. The last camper. By the third night, there were only 3 of them left. The whispers started earlier, as the fire still burned bright. This time clearer, stronger. So tired, stay with me. They held hands around the flames, eyes darting to the shadows. None dared close their eyes, but as the hours stretched, exhaustion wore them down. Tyler nodded first, jerking awake, then nodding again. Leah hummed tunelessly to keep alert. Noah chewed his lip raw, and then, without realizing when, Tyler was gone. Not walked away, not dragged, just gone. One moment there, head slumped forward. The next, his seat empty. Leah screamed, shoving herself against Noah. He's taking us. He's taking us. The whisper grew into words now, circling them like smoke. One more, just one more. Something moved at the edge of the clearing. Pale figure, barefoot, eyes hollow. He looked almost human, except his skin sagged like wet paper, and his mouth hung open in a soundless wail. Leah sobbed, covering her ears. Noah clutched her, but when he turned, she was gone, just gone. Her blanket sat where she'd been, and Noah was alone. The figure stepped closer, into the firelight. Noah saw his face at last, gaunt, gray, with eyes like pits. And beneath the face, beneath the hollow stare, Noah saw Dylan, Jess, Tyler, Leah, all their features blurred into his. The last camper. Your turn, the voice rasped. The fire sputtered, died. Darkness swallowed the clearing. 2 weeks later, rangers found the campsite. Tents zipped, gear untouched, for pairs of boots lined neatly outside. But no campers, only Noah remained. He sat by the cold ashes of the fire, barefoot, staring blankly into the woods. When they asked what happened, he said nothing, just whispered again and again, cold, so cold. And when they led him away, they swore they saw bare footprints circling the fire pit. The red lantern. The fire was burning low, but none of them wanted to move from its glow. After the stories of voices and ash, the dark seemed thicker than ever, pressing at their shoulders. Tyler stabbed at the coals with a stick. All right, we've had ghosts, radios, bells. Now it's my turn. Something real, flesh and blood. Want to hear about the red lantern? Leah groaned. If this turns into another ghost. Nope. Tyler grinned, though his eyes didn't quite match the expression. This one's different. People say it happened, and maybe it still does. It's not a spirit. It's a man. He leaned closer to the fire, his voice dropping. Back in the 1940s, there was a guy who lived in these woods. Hermit, drifter, whatever you want to call him. Nobody knew his real name. He carried a lantern with red glass, always red, so he wouldn't ruin his night vision while hunting. But hunting wasn't all he used it for. They say he killed people. Hikers, couples, even other campers. Wait until night, sneak close, and you'd see the glow of his lantern bobbing through the trees, always coming closer. The rangers looked for him for years, but they never caught him. Some say he froze to death one winter. Others say he's still out here waiting. And if you see that red light moving through the woods, it's too late. He's already watching you. The stick in Tyler's hand snapped in two. He tossed it into the fire with a smirk. End of story. Jess rolled her eyes, but her smile was thin. Nice try. Not as spooky as Ash children. But then Noah stiffened, staring past her. What? Jess asked. Noah's face had gone pale. His finger lifted, pointing toward the trees. A faint red glow bobbed between the trunks. The lantern appears. At first, Jess thought it was a trick of her eyes. Firelight catching something red. But no, the glow was separate. Moving. A lantern. Slowly weaving between the trees. Coming closer. Leah whispered, "Tell me that's someone's headlamp, please." But it wasn't. The light was too steady, too deliberate. A dull red sphere swaying with each step. Tyler forced a laugh. "Okay, very funny. Who brought a lantern to prank me?" No one answered. The red glow paused. Then it bobbed again, closer this time. Jess's throat tightened. "That's not us." The glow circled, moving around the clearing. Never entering the firelight, always just beyond. Leah clutched Noah's arm. "He's watching." The first approach. They tried to brush it off. A hunter, maybe, or another camper. But no one wanted to say it out loud. The lantern circled for nearly an hour. Every time they thought it had gone, it appeared again, behind a tree, over a rise, always at the edge of sight. Then, just as Tyler was muttering curses under his breath, the glow stopped. It hung perfectly still. And then a voice came. "Low, rough, don't run." The friends went rigid. The voice drifted closer, carried by the still air. "Don't move." Jess grabbed the hatchet from beside the woodpile, knuckles white around the handle. The glow swayed once more, closer, and then it vanished. The forest fell silent. The second night, none of them slept. They took turns staring into the woods, waiting for the red glow to return. When dawn broke, exhaustion set in. They argued whether to pack up and leave. Noah swore they should. Tyler insisted it was just some weirdo trying to spook them. But when night fell again, the lantern returned. This time it didn't circle, came straight toward camp. The red glow bobbed between the trees, closer with each sway. Footsteps crunched in the leaves, slow, deliberate. Jess whispered, "We should go, right now." "No," Tyler hissed. "That's exactly what he wants. You run, he follows. We stay in the light." But the lantern didn't stop. It reached the tree-line, casting faint red across the clearing. The fire sputtered as if the air itself recoiled. A shadow stood behind the glow, tall, broad-shouldered, holding the lantern at his side. The glass burned crimson. The figure didn't move, didn't speak, just stood there, watching. Minutes passed like hours. Then the lantern lifted, slow and deliberate, and the voice came again. "One of you," Jess screamed. The figure stepped forward. Tyler hurled the hatchet, but when it struck the trees, the lantern vanished. Only darkness remained. The hunt, panic fractured them. Noah insisted they pack and leave right then. Leah begged to wait until dawn. Tyler ranted that it was a setup, some psycho screwing with them. While they argued, Jess froze. "Listen," she whispered. Footsteps. Behind them, the lantern flared again, this time from the opposite side of the clearing. Closer. Then another glow appeared to the left. Another red light. And another. 3 lanterns swayed in the dark. "No," Leah breathed. "There's more than one." The lights began to close in, forming a circle around the camp. Voiced the red glow. Chaos erupted. Shouts, scrambling, the crash of gear. Someone tripped over a tent rope. Someone else fell into the ashes. In the darkness, the lanterns blazed brighter. Red circles moving fast now, weaving between trees, circling tighter. Noah grabbed Leah's hand. "Run!" They bolted into the woods, branches slapping their faces. The glow followed, bobbing and weaving, always behind them, sometimes ahead. Jess's scream cut through the night. They spun and saw her stumble. One of the lanterns flared, and in its glow a shape loomed, tall, faceless, swinging something heavy. The scream stopped. Jess was gone. The lantern turned toward them. "One of you." The flight. They ran until their lungs burned, but the red glow never left. Always following, always closer. At last they burst into a clearing. The moon lit a crumbling foundation, stones blackened by age. Leah gasped. "The old sawmill. This is where it started." Noah looked around wildly. "We can't stop." But Tyler collapsed to his knees, gasping. "We fight. We can't keep running." The lanterns appeared again. 3, 4, maybe more, circling the ruins. The figures stepped into the moonlight at last. Tall men in ragged coats, faces hidden under wide-brimmed hats. Each carried a lantern of red glass and long, rusted tools. Hooks, axes, chains. Their voices whispered together. "Don't run. Don't move. One of you," Leah sobbed. "Why us? What do you want?" The figures raised their lanterns. "Trade." The final light. The circle closed. Rusted tools scraped against stone. Tyler roared and charged, swinging a branch like a club. One lantern swung back, colliding with his skull. The red glow burst across his face, and when it cleared, he was simply gone. Leah screamed, clutching Noah. The lanterns turned toward them. "One of you." Noah held her tight. "Run on my signal." But before he could count, a lantern flared behind them. Another figure loomed, blocking the path. The whisper came hot against his ear. "You!" Pain split his chest. The world spun red. He heard Leah scream as he fell, the glow of the lantern filling his vision until there was nothing else. And then silence. When rangers found the camp weeks later, 3 sets of boots remained by the tents. The fire pit was cold. No sign of the campers. But sometimes, hikers say, if you wander too deep at night, you'll see them. red lanterns swaying between the trees. And if you do, don't run. Don't move, because the red lantern already knows which one of you it wants. The silent ones. The fire was nearly out when Noah spoke again, his voice low, cautious. We've had monsters, we've had killers, we've had ghosts, but silence. That's what really gets me. Leah frowned. Silence. Yeah. He poked at the embers. My grandmother told me about them, the silent ones. She swore they followed her once, when she was a girl. Jess rolled her eyes. Followed her where? Everywhere, Noah whispered. The rule of silence. They're not spirits, not exactly. Not demons either. They're echoes of people who used to live, but chose silence instead of death. You don't hear them coming. You just notice things are wrong. No birds, no wind. Even your footsteps sound swallowed. And then you realize you're not alone. Tyler snorted. That's just being in the woods at night. Everything's quiet. No, Noah's gaze fixed on him. This quiet is different. This heavy presses on you. You'll know, because the moment you speak, they'll hear you. Jess leaned forward. And then what? Then they copy you. The fire popped sharply, making them all flinch. The story of Caleb. Noah stirred the ashes, eyes distant. There was a kid named Caleb, 19, my grandmother's neighbor back in the 60s. Liked wandering after dark, listening to music on his headphones. Thought the stories were just campfire garbage. One night, he went too far into the woods. Came back the next morning pale, shaking, wouldn't talk about it. He stopped walking at night, stopped leaving his room much at all. A month later, his parents heard voices upstairs. His voice, talking to someone. But when they opened the door, he was alone. He swore he hadn't spoken. Said the voices were coming from outside his window. And every night, there were more of them, all whispering his name, all in his own voice. Leah wrapped her blanket tighter. Okay, that's creepy. 2 weeks later, Caleb disappeared. His bed empty, window wide open. The cops found nothing, just silence in the woods. The sound that isn't. The wind shifted. For a moment, the camp fell too still. No cicadas, no crackling fire. Jess tilted her head. Hey, do you guys hear that? They listened. Nothing. Not even the creak in the distance. Leah forced a laugh. You're just messing with us. But her voice sounded swallowed. Flat, like the trees had absorbed it. The silence pressed in heavy, thick. And then, Leah, the word came from the dark. Her own voice. She froze. That's Leah. Again, exactly the same. Jess's face drained of color. That was you. But not you. The copies. Something shifted beyond the treeline. Not footsteps, more like the impression of footsteps. The fire dimmed, shadows stretching tall. Jess. This time Jess's own voice echoed from the dark. Stilted. Hollow. Tyler. Tyler stumbled back, eyes wide. No, that's a trick. Just an echo. But the air grew heavier. Each breath was a struggle. Noah whispered, Don't answer them. Whatever you do, don't speak back. Leah's lips trembled. Why? He swallowed. Because if they know which one is you, they'll take it. The first shape. From the trees, a figure stepped forward. It was Leah, her face pale, expression blank. Eyes too wide, lips pressed thin. Leah? It whispered in Leah's own voice. The real Leah backed away, clutching her chest. That's not me. Another shape followed. Tyler. His copy's head twitched unnaturally, like it was learning how to hold itself upright. Tyler. The forest rustled with more movement. Dozens of shapes slipping between trees. Each one a warped version of them. Jess. Noah. Leah. Their own voices overlapped, eerie and flat. The circle. The silent ones spread around the clearing, forming a ring. Their blank faces twitched as they echoed names again and again. Jess clamped her hands over her ears. Make it stop. Make it stop. Her copy tilted its head. mimicking her motion perfectly, hands rising to cover its ears, mouth stretching in a silent scream. The others did the same. Every movement was stolen, reflected, multiplied, until the forest was filled with silent screams. Leah sobbed. "What do we do?" Noah's voice shook. "Don't break. Don't speak. If you do. If you do." The copies all spoke in unison, finishing his sentence. "We'll take you." Jess breaks. The silence grew unbearable. Their own copies stood inches away, faces twitching, whispers overlapping. Jess snapped. "Shut up," she screamed. Her copy grinned, the first expression it had shown. It opened its mouth wider and wider until its jaw cracked. The scream came back, but layered, distorted, endless. Jess clutched her head. "Stop, stop, stop." Her copy reached out. Fingers brushed her cheek. And then Jess's body stilled. Her mouth opened, but no sound came. Her eyes went blank. Her copy closed its mouth, smiled, and then Jess, the real Jess, stepped forward into the circle. Now there were two of her. Collapse. Leah sobbed into her hands. "We can't fight them, we can't." Her copy mimicked her sobbing perfectly, but twisted, laughing through tears. Noah grabbed Leah's arm. "Don't listen. We move. Now." They broke for the gap between two copies. The shapes turned their heads together, tracking every step. Tyler shoved one aside. It was solid, cold as stone, but it didn't fall. Simply reset, standing again, mouth opening in a perfect O. "Tyler!" The circle closed. The last sound. The forest was gone. Only silence, endless, suffocating. Tyler screamed, "Help! Somebody help!" All the copies screamed too. His voice multiplied 100 times, bouncing through the trees. Then his real voice stopped. The screams continued without him, and Tyler stood among them, his eyes empty. Leah and Noah were the only ones left. The copies leaned closer. "Leah! Noah!" The end of silence. Leah squeezed her eyes shut. "It's not real. It's not real. It's not real." But the silence pressed harder. Her breath caught, and when she opened her eyes, Noah was gone. Only his copy remained, smiling faintly. She turned, desperate, and froze, because every copy in the circle was her. Dozens of Leahs, standing silent, eyes too wide. Her voice came from all of them at once. "Stay!" The fire hissed out, and the silence swallowed everything. Some hikers swear the woods are louder than they should be. Birds, crickets, frogs, chattering endlessly. But then it stops. And if you hear your own voice calling back to you, you'll know. The silent ones have found you, and you'll never speak again. Whispers on the ridge. The fire had dwindled to a low, smoldering glow, barely keeping the chill at bay. Tyler spat a spark into the ashes. "All right, one last story. After this, no more ghosts, no more witches, no more." He waved vaguely at the darkness around them. Noah leaned forward. "Whispers? You're talking about whispers?" Jess shivered. "Yeah, I've had enough of that. Give it to me straight. What happens on the ridge?" Tyler's eyes glinted. "They say the ridge is alive with voices, whispering in your mind. About you, about things you've done, things you've hidden." Leah frowned. "You mean ghosts?" "No," Tyler said. "Not ghosts. The ridge talks back. And if it likes what it hears, it takes you. The legend. Long ago," he continued, "the ridge was a lookout for settlers. Folks built cabins on its slopes, watched over the valley. They say one winter, a small village vanished. Not a soul left. Only the ridge remained. People whispered that the ridge itself took them, listened to their secrets, judged them, and claimed them. Since then, hikers and campers hear whispers at night, voices drifting with the wind. Sometimes they know your name. Sometimes they just know what you fear." Jess rolled her eyes. "Sounds like wind and paranoia." Tyler leaned closer. "It's more than that. People who hear it too long, they go missing. Sometimes they come back changed. Sometimes they just vanish, leaving clothes or footprints. but never the body. The first hiker, Noah, spoke quietly. My cousin's friend, Aaron, went up there once, heard voices calling him by name, thought it was his friends playing a prank. He followed them, only there was no one, just the wind in the rocks, whispering his sins. Tyler nodded. And then, no one knows. He disappeared. Hikers found his pack months later, still with his notebook inside. Every page was filled with scribbles. Names, confessions, things he'd never told anyone. In the margins, words were written backwards, like the ridge was answering back. Leah shivered. That's insane. Tyler smiled thinly. Yeah, but if it's real, you'll hear it when the wind shifts tonight. The ascent. The friends had camped at the base of the ridge. The path ahead was steep, lined with jagged stones and bare trees. As they climbed the slope, the wind picked up. Whispering began softly, like someone muttering behind a closed door. Leah, Tyler, Jess, Noah. The names weren't random. The ridge knew them. Jess froze. Did it just say my name? Tyler's flashlight wavered. Everyone hush. Don't answer. The whispers grew louder, clearer, circling them. You lied. You betrayed. You're afraid. The ridge didn't just repeat things, it judged, it probed. It seemed to know their worst thoughts. The echoes. Branches snapped behind them. Shadows stretched unnaturally. Every time they turned, nothing was there. But the whispering followed. Noah whispered, "It's echoing us, our own thoughts, our own fears." The ridge listens and then it repeats them, warps them. Leah clutched her arms. It's making me hear everything I've ever thought. The wind picked up, whistling in their ears. She will betray. He is afraid. You are nothing. Voices overlapped, fractured. They couldn't tell what was real and what was imagined. The first claim. Jess stumbled, hitting a rock. Pain shot up her leg. You will fall. You cannot escape. She screamed, clutching her ankle. The ridge echoed it back, twisting her scream into whispers. Tyler rushed to help, but the slope shifted beneath them. The ground seemed to heave like a living thing. Tyler, you will die. Tyler's flashlight flickered. Shadows coiled in the rocks like serpents. A low, wet sound came from above. A sliding, shifting, scraping. Something moving just beyond sight. The ridge had claimed its first victim. Jess screamed again, but her own voice was swallowed, echoed, twisted. When Tyler grabbed her, she pulled away violently, eyes wide and blank for a heartbeat. The ridge speaks. The wind howled. Whispers became words, clear sentences, questions, threats, revelations. He hides the truth. She is guilty. You will regret this. Leah's hands flew to her ears. It's inside my head. Noah grabbed her. It wants you to panic. It feeds on fear. Listen carefully. It'll twist it against you. You cannot run. You are already mine. The ridge pressed closer, unseen yet tangible. Every shadow felt like teeth. Every gust of wind carried accusation. The spiral. They tried to move forward, toward the top, hoping to reach the tree line and escape the wind's grip. But the ridge shifted. The rocks seemed to tilt, the slope steeper than before. Footsteps echoed behind them, but when they turned, there was no one. Turn back. You will not survive. Leah tripped, tumbling forward. The whispers became her own voice. I am afraid. I am alone. I cannot escape. Panic rose. Her heartbeat pounded louder than the wind. Noah shouted, "We have to keep moving. Don't listen. Don't answer." But the whispers answered for them anyway. You will betray. You will fail. Tyler's flashlight slipped from his hand, clattering down the slope. Darkness swallowed the beam instantly. The claiming. The ridge closed in. Shadows grew taller, stretching like fingers toward them. Jess screamed, "Help! Someone help me!" Her voice was echoed instantly, in multiple tones. High, low, distorted, whispering her fears back to her. A figure appeared in the shadows. Tall, pale, faceless. its body made of rock and wind. It advanced slowly. "You cannot escape. You are mine." Jess reached out, but her hand met nothing. When she blinked, the figure had moved closer. Leah felt a tug at her ankle. Something cold, wet, unyielding. A shadow. She screamed. Noah tried to pull her free, but he was caught by unseen hands, rocks shifting underfoot like claws. The ridge was alive. The final whisper. At the summit, the wind roared. Every whisper became a chorus. Leah, Tyler, Jess, Noah. They realized too late. The ridge had learned their names, their fears, their guilt. It echoed them back, warped, twisting. Tyler shouted, "Hold together!" But it was useless. The ridge consumed sound, thought, fear. "You cannot escape!" Jess screamed again, and then silence. The wind dropped. Only the ridge remained, watching, waiting, listening. Hikers sometimes find backpacks and shoes along the ridge. No bodies, only scribbled names, etched into rock and tree bark. Some swear the ridge whispers when the wind blows just right. If you go there alone, you'll hear it. Your own voice, your own secrets. And if you answer, the ridge will take you too. The knock at the tent. The fire had dimmed to glowing embers, and the night pressed close around their campsite. Leah was already zipped inside her tent, blanket over her head. Tyler and Jess sat staring at the remains of the fire, poking at ashes with sticks. Noah's flashlight lay beside him, flicking shadows across the trees. Jess shivered. "Does anyone else feel like we're being watched?" Tyler laughed softly. "Seriously? After the tree and the creek and the whatever the hell we just survived. Now this? Come on." Noah didn't answer. He kept looking toward the dark tree line, eyes narrow, body tense. A sudden sound made them all jump. Knock, knock, knock. Soft, deliberate. From Leah's tent. The first knock. Jess froze. That's Leah's tent. Who's messing with her? Tyler shook his head. No one's stupid enough to. Knock, knock, knock. Louder this time. The three of them stared, breath caught. No one else was camping in these woods. No road nearby. Nothing. Tyler got up. "I'll check. Probably a branch or..." He stopped. Something brushed against his ankle. Soft, wet. He looked down. Nothing. The knock came again, this time with a hollow vibration. Not on fabric, but almost inside it. Jess whispered, "That's not normal." Noah's voice was barely audible. "Don't open it. Don't even unzip it. Whatever it is, it wants a reaction." The unseen visitor. The three of them sat rigid. The knock continued, sometimes slow, sometimes fast, like it was testing them, waiting. Tyler tried to laugh, louder than he felt. "Okay, joke's funny. Stop. Seriously." The knock stopped. A long silence. Then a whisper. "Let me in." It sounded like Leah, or someone imitating her voice perfectly. Jess clutched the flap. "Nope, I am not opening it." The whisper came again. Softer, but closer. "I'm cold. Let me in." Noah shivered. That's not Leah. That's something else. Something that copies her voice. Exactly like her. The panic sets in. Tyler unzipped the tent flap, thinking he could grab Leah. But no one was there. "See," he muttered. "Nobody." The flap slammed shut behind him. Knock, knock, knock. Jess screamed. Tyler spun around, flashlight slicing the darkness. Nothing. Then came a soft, wet sound, like someone dragging themselves across the grass. From every direction. Knock, knock, knock. And then, very softly, in Leah's voice, "I'm right here." Inside the tent. Leah trembled inside. It's pretending. I know it's pretending." The tent's fabric quivered. Something pushed lightly against it. Small, soft, but strong. Noah whispered, "Don't let it in. Don't respond. Don't acknowledge it." Knock, knock, knock. It grew heavier, faster. The tent walls bulged. "Let me in. I'm scared, please." Leah shrieked. "I'm not letting you in." The knock changed more like rapping. Fast, chaotic, and then Silence. The pause lasted a heartbeat too long. A hand pressed against the inside of the tent. Pale. Too long, too narrow. Fingernails curling through the fabric. Leah screamed again. The shadows outside. Tyler shone the flashlight into the surrounding trees. The beam caught movement. Figures. Human but wrong. Too tall. Limbs too long. Heads tilting sideways like they didn't know how to hold themselves. One figure stepped forward. No face, only smooth skin. And it carried Leah's backpack. The flashlight flickered. The figure vanished. Noah's voice shook. They're circling. Always circling. They don't make sound unless you look away. Jess whimpered, hugging herself. Why us? Why here? Noah didn't answer. He was too busy watching the treeline. The first attack. The tent shivered violently. Something clawed at it, pushing and pulling, trying to tear it open. Leah screamed. Tyler lunged, trying to hold the flap closed. A hand slipped inside the zipper gap. Long fingers, pale cold, grasping. Jess struck at it with the flashlight. It shrieked, a high, inhuman sound, and pulled back. The knock continued outside, rapid, chaotic. Multiple hands now, each slap louder than the last. Then, from the inside of the tent, a voice. Tyler, let me in. He spun. The tent was empty, but the voice came again, louder, closer, right at his ear. The flight. Leah grabbed Tyler's arm. We're leaving. Now. They stumbled into the night, flashlights swinging. The knock and scratch sounds followed them, bouncing from tree to tree. Jess tripped over a root, landing hard. She looked up. Figures emerging from the darkness, not running, not walking, just sliding, gliding toward them. Noah shouted, Head for the ridge! Don't stop! They ran. Each step was mirrored behind them, shadows moving faster than possible. Branches tore at their clothes, faces, arms. Every rustle of leaves was another knock. Another whisper. I'm right behind you. Don't run. Let me in. The ridge. They reached a clearing near the ridge, panting, bleeding from scrapes and cuts. The night sky stretched above, moon full. For a moment, silence. Then, the knock returned. Knock, 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 from everywhere. From the ground. From the treetops. From the air around them. Leah shrieked. We can't. Stop it. Noah scanned with the flashlight. Nothing. Then the first figure stepped out of the shadows. It was Leah, her face blank, eyes hollow. Leah, Tyler whispered. The figure smiled. Her mouth opened impossibly wide. Then, knock, knock, knock. Jess screamed, stumbling back. The figure lunged. The last tent. They stumbled toward the old ranger's cabin nearby. Locked. No keys. Only one tent left in the clearing. Leah, shaking, whispered, We have to hide. They zipped inside. Darkness swallowed them. The knock followed. Not outside. Inside. On the tent walls. Knock, knock, knock. They huddled together. Tyler shone the flashlight around. Nothing. A hand slid between the zipper gap. Long fingers traced their cheeks, brushing lips, chin, hands. And the voice whispered, You can't hide. I'm inside too. The tent walls bulged. Figures pressed against every side. Faces unseen. Shapes impossible. Leah screamed. Tyler swung the flashlight. Jess clawed at the zipper. The knock grew louder, faster, frantic. And then, silence. The campsite was found the next morning. Tents zipped. Fire cold. No footprints outside. The 4 teens were gone. Nothing remained but a tent flap ripped in half and scratches across the fabric. Long, deep, unending. Some hikers report hearing knocks on tents at night in these woods. And a voice whispering your name. If you hear it, don't unzip the flap. Don't answer. And whatever you do, don't look inside, because the knock will always be at your tent. The hanging tree. The fire crackled high again, sparks snapping into the night. Tyler leaned forward, his voice rough, low, carrying the weight of a story that had been told too many times. You kids ever hear about the tree down on Weatherby Road? The one they say keeps its roots fat with blood. Leah grimaced. That's just a story for drunk teenagers. Tyler shook his head. No, that's the hanging tree. Been standing since the 1700s. Long before any of us. Long before even the town had a name. Jess rolled her eyes. Let me guess. People were hung from it. Tyler stared into the flames. Not people. Witches. The Witch of Weatherby. They called her Old Marnie. Nobody knew where she came from. Just showed up one autumn, living in a shack by the swamp. She healed the sick, delivered babies, brewed charms. Folks liked her until the crops failed. That winter, children starved. Cows dropped dead. Men came home from the woods with their eyes rolled back, muttering about a woman's laugh echoing through the trees. Didn't take long for fingers to point. They dragged old Marnie to that oak on the hill. Didn't give her a trial. Didn't give her a priest. Just a rope and a branch thick enough to hold. Leah whispered. She cursed them, didn't she? Tyler nodded slowly. She didn't struggle, didn't beg, just looked at every man in that crowd and said, "This tree will not die, and neither will I." Then she laughed, and when the rope snapped her neck, the laugh kept going. The tree grows. They buried her under the roots. Thought that would settle it. But the tree, it grew. Overnight, the branches thickened, twisted. The roots broke through the earth, gnarled like black veins. And from that night on, the wind never touched it. The leaves never moved. Folks said if you listened close, you could hear breathing under the bark. And sometimes whispers. Jess hugged her knees. Okay, that's creepy, but lots of towns have witch tree legends. Tyler smiled faintly. Ours is different, because our tree still feeds. The disappearances. It started with cattle. Farmers kept finding their best milk cows missing. They'd hear lowing in the night, like the herd had wandered. But in the morning, the fence would be untouched. Just hoofprints in the mud leading up the hill. The cows were never found. Then it was dogs. Then children. Leah flinched. Children? Yeah. A boy named Samuel went chasing fireflies. His mother saw the lights flickering by the oak. She screamed, ran after him. By the time she reached the tree, the lights were gone. And so was Samuel. She swore she heard laughter in the branches. A woman's laugh. The hanging game. Jess forced a laugh. So what? You're saying a ghost which kidnaps kids? No, Tyler's voice dropped. I'm saying the tree does. They say if you walk too close at night, you'll feel a rope brush your neck. Light as a spider web. And if you look up, you'll see her, Old Marnie, swinging. Eyes open. Watching. She doesn't just hang there. She waits. The fire popped loud. Jess flinched. Tyler leaned closer. And if you stop, if you freeze, if you let the noose settle, you'll be gone by morning. Swallowed into the roots. Sometimes the bark peels just right, and you'll see a face. Not hers. Yours. The dare. Years passed. Kids dared each other to go up to the hill. Some came back pale, swearing they felt fingers brush their throats. Others laughed it off, but a few never came back. The town stopped talking about them. Easier that way, except for one group, for teens like us, 1989. They brought beer, flashlights, a camcorder. Wanted proof. The tape was found a week later, mud-streaked, no bodies anywhere near. Most of it was static, but one part, it showed the tree, branches swaying when there was no wind, and a shape hanging there. Not a girl, a boy, one of their own, neck twisted wrong, eyes still moving, looking at the camera. The modern curse. Noah whispered, "You're making this up." Tyler shook his head. Ask anyone. They'll tell you the tree never lost a leaf. Even in winter, it stays green. Storms knock down everything else, but not that oak. It won't burn, it won't split, it won't rot. Every few years, someone new vanishes, and the ground by the roots swells like a grave. And if you press your ear to the bark, he trailed off. Leah swallowed. What happens? Tyler met her eyes. You'll hear them breathing. All of them. Tonight. The fire sputtered low. A heavy gust rolled through camp. Yet the oak across the field stood unmoving, its black outline jagged against the moon. Leah shivered. That tree right there. That's it. Isn't it? Tyler didn't answer. The silence stretched long, brittle. And then Jess's eyes widened. Wait, where's Noah? They spun. His seat was empty, blanket crumpled. Noah! Leah's voice cracked. No answer. But in the distance, swaying against the moonlight, a rope swung gently from the oak. For the first time all night, its branches moved. And faint, cold laughter drifted on the wind. They say the hanging tree doesn't take everyone, just the ones foolish enough to listen. But if you stand too close and you feel a rope brush your neck, don't look up. Don't freeze. And whatever you do, don't listen if the tree starts laughing. Because if you do, you'll hang forever. Something in the creek. The fire had burned low, crackling in bursts as damp wood hissed. Leah's hands shook as she held her marshmallow stick, though she hadn't touched the marshmallow in an hour. No more lantern men, she said, voice brittle. No more whispers. Give me something different. Something, I don't know. Nature scary. Jess, pale but still sharp-tongued, smirked. You mean like bears? Wolves? Gators? Noah leaned forward, shadows hollowing his cheeks. No, like the creek. The others looked at him. What creek? Tyler asked. Noah nodded toward the darkness beyond their campsite. The one that cuts through these woods. Didn't you hear it earlier? Sounds like running water if you listen close. Leah frowned. Yeah, so? Noah said softly, my granddad told me a story about that creek, about what lives in it. They called it the Drowner. The Drowner. He spoke like he was remembering the words, not making them up. It's older than the forest. People said it was here before settlers, before tribes. The water's its body, the mud's its skin. It doesn't like light, doesn't like noise, but it loves people, loves to pull them in. Back when this land was still homesteads and mills, kids would vanish near the creek. Farmers, too. They'd find their boots in the mud, sometimes a handprint sliding into the bank. Never bodies. Folks swore they saw things in the water, eyes pale as fish bellies just under the surface. Watching, waiting. The rule was simple. After dark, you stayed away from the creek. Didn't matter how thirsty you were. If you heard running water, you covered your ears. Because if you listened too long... He paused. The fire popped. It called your name. Leah shifted uneasily. That's pleasant. But Jess was staring past Noah, toward the dark. Wait, do you hear that? They fell silent. The soft rush of water drifted through the trees. The first call. At first it sounded normal, just a creek gurgling over stones. But the longer they listened, the stranger it became. The rhythm wasn't random. It rose and fell like breathing. Then, between the splashes, something else. Leah, she jolted. Did you hear that? Tyler frowned. What? It said my name. They strained again. The water hissed, bubbled, then... Leah. This time they all heard it. The sound was faint, like a voice underwater, drawn out and warped. Leah's hands clamped over her ears. Nope. I'm not doing this. But the voice came again, clearer now. Leah, come. The water's rush grew louder, though no one moved. It filled the air, drowning the crackle of the fire. Leah, thirsty. The creek. Against every instinct, Leah stood. Don't, Noah hissed. I need to see it. She took a step toward the treeline. Jess grabbed her wrist. Are you out of your mind? Leah's eyes were glassy, unfocused. It's calling me. They argued, voices rising, until Tyler finally snapped and stormed ahead with his flashlight. Fine. I'll prove it's nothing but water. He pushed through brush, the beam bouncing across trunks. The rushing grew louder with each step. At last, the trees opened to a narrow creek, its surface silver in the moonlight. Water tumbled over rocks, frothing and black. Leah stumbled beside him, eyes wide. See? Just water. Then Tyler's light swept the bank. Pale hand lay on the mud. Long fingers, thin as reeds. The skin shimmered like wet fish scales, twitched, and slid into the creek. The water swallowed it whole. The eyes. Leah screamed. The creek answered with a splash. Ripples broke the surface, spreading outward. Two pale orbs floated up just below the waterline. Not bubbles. Eyes. They stared straight at her. Leah. The voice burbled through the rushing. Tyler grabbed her and yanked her back. We're going. Now. But as they turned, the water erupted. A shape burst upward. Mud-slick, boneless, twisting like a serpent made of limbs. Its body shimmered with scales and hair, mouths opening and closing along its length. Hands, dozens of them, reached from its sides, clawing at the bank. The eyes multiplied, pale lights rising beneath the surface. And all the voices spoke at once. Come down. Stay with us. Thirsty. Leah shrieked as fingers brushed her ankle. Tyler hauled her up the bank, branches tearing at their clothes as they fled back toward camp. The encroaching water. They crashed into the clearing, gasping. But the sound followed. The creek's rushing grew louder, impossibly loud, until it seemed to circle the camp itself. Jess's head whipped around. It's not just over there anymore. Water gurgled behind them, to the left, to the right. Streams began trickling into the clearing, bubbling between roots, seeping from the earth. The fire hissed as rivulets snaked toward it, smoke curling up. Noah backed away. It's coming up through the ground. The mud churned. Pale fingers broke the soil, clawing upward. Eyes opened in puddles, blinking blindly. The voices rose, layered, endless. Leah, Noah, Jess, all their names called in wet, gurgling tones. The creek was everywhere now. The pull. The ground gave way beneath Jess. She screamed as she dropped knee-deep into a puddle that hadn't been their seconds before. Hands wrapped her legs, pale, bloated, dragging. She clawed at the mud, but it only pulled deeper. Tyler and Noah grabbed her arms, yanking hard. For a moment she came free. Then a surge of water shot upward, slamming them all back. Jess vanished beneath the surface, her scream cut off with a bubbling choke. The puddle stilled. Only ripples remained. Leah sobbed. We have to leave now. But the ground was collapsing, splitting into streams that converged into a widening pool. The forest itself seemed to bleed water. Something massive shifted beneath, dark and writhing. The drowner was rising. The flood. They ran, but the forest was gone. The trees leaned like shadows behind curtains of water. The path back to the road was a river, frothing and black. Leah stumbled, coughing as spray filled her mouth. Which way? There's no way, Tyler shouted, but even his voice was drowned in the roar. Figures moved in the flood, shapes like people, their faces soft and featureless, drifting with the current. Their arms reached out as they passed, brushing shoulders, hair, mouths gaping in silent screams. The friends pushed on, fighting through waist-deep water. But the current grew stronger, dragging them down. Leah lost her footing. She went under, and in the murk, eyes opened all around her. Pale, lidless, inches from her face. Hands seized her wrists, her throat, her hair. Mouths pressed against her skin, sucking, whispering. Stay! She broke the surface, gasping. But the creek followed, rising higher, pulling her back. The last breath. Tyler hauled Leah onto a rock, but the water surged higher, swallowing it. Noah screamed as something yanked his leg. He disappeared beneath the foam, his flashlight spinning before vanishing into black. Tyler tried to grab him, but pale hands seized his arms. They dragged him backward, pinning him against the rock. His mouth opened, screaming, as water filled it. The last thing Leah saw of him were his eyes, wide, terrified. As he was pulled into the flood, she was alone. The voices rose in chorus, bubbling and wet. Leah, stay, stay. The water closed over her head. Hands wrapped around her chest, squeezing, pulling her deeper. The last bit of moonlight flickered above, then was gone. All that remained was the dark. The eyes, the endless, rushing voices. Hikers sometimes hear rushing water in those woods, even where no creek runs. If they linger too long, they say the sound changes, turns to whispers. Sometimes it calls their name. And if they follow the sound, they never come back. Because something in the creek is always thirsty. Dead air. The fire hissed and cracked as a log collapsed into glowing embers. Tyler leaned back on his elbows, staring up at the scattered stars through the pine branches. His breath steamed in the chill, but the warmth of the fire made him feel untouchable. Jess tossed a marshmallow into the flames, watching it hiss into blackened sugar smoke. "We need another story," she said. "A good one. Something freaky. No offense, Leah, but last night's thing with the last camper kept me up till 3. "That's a compliment," Leah said, smirking. "I wanted you to lose sleep." "Well, congrats, mission accomplished." They laughed, but it was the brittle kind of laughter that didn't quite reach the eyes. They'd all felt the forest pressing on them since the trip began. Nights were too quiet here, the dark too heavy. Noah rummaged in his pack, then pulled something out with a grin. It was a squat little battery-powered radio, the kind with a cracked plastic dial and an antenna bent at a crooked angle. "Instead of stories," he said. "How about some music?" Tyler frowned. "That thing even work?" "Got it from my grandpa's garage," Noah said. "Old as dirt, but it picks up AM. Creepiest white noise generator you'll ever hear. Perfect campfire vibes." He twisted the dial. Static hissed, filling the clearing with a low, endless roar. Sometimes the static parted, letting a faint voice or warped bit of music through before vanishing again. Jess shivered. "God, that's worse than silence." "That's the point." Noah grinned, settling back. "The unknown is scarier than anything we could make up." They sat listening for a while, the fire crackling under the veil of static. Occasionally, the dial caught fragments, half a country song, the end of a preacher's sermon, a weather report. Nothing stuck for more than a few seconds. Then, between the gaps, something else came through. "Help!" The word was faint, buried under static. Leah sat forward. "Wait, did you hear that?" Tyler snorted. It was a station cutting out. But then it came again. Louder, clearer. "Someone help me." The group froze. The voice was hoarse, trembling. A man's voice, though warped by static. "Trapped underground." "Okay, nope," Jess said, hugging her knees. "That's messed up." Noah turned the dial slightly, trying to sharpen the signal. The static shifted, then steadied. The voice broke through, faint but steady now. "Can anyone hear me? I'm under the campfire." Everyone went still. The fire popped, sending sparks upward. Nobody spoke. Leah finally whispered, "Did he just say? Under the campfire?" Noah finished, his grin gone. His hand tightened on the radio. "Bullshit," Tyler said quickly. "That's gotta be a prank station or something. Like those number stations, except creepier." "On AM radio?" Jess said. "In the middle of nowhere?" The voice came again, ragged and broken. "Please, it's so dark. I can't breathe." The 4 of them sat frozen, eyes darting between the fire and the radio. The flames snapped and flared, throwing shadows across their faces. "Turn it off," Jess whispered. Noah hesitated. His thumb hovered over the dial. And then the voice said, "Noah." Everyone stared at him. "Noah, help me." Noah's hand jerked back like he'd been burned. His face drained pale. "Okay, that's it." Jess scrambled to her feet. "It's picking us up somehow, I don't care how. Turn it off." But Noah couldn't. His eyes were locked on the radio. That was my brother's voice." Silence fell heavier than the trees around them. The voice in the static. Noah's brother, Caleb, had gone missing 3 years ago. A hiking trip gone wrong. Search parties found nothing, no body, no trace. Noah never forgave himself for not going with him. Now, the voice kept pushing through the static, hoarse and trembling. "Noah, please dig. I'm underneath." Leah swallowed hard. "That's impossible. He's gone. This has to be your brain playing tricks." but Noah shook his head violently. I know his voice. That's him. Tyler grabbed the radio, twisting the dial hard. The voice vanished into static. There, done. You're freaking yourself out. But when the fire popped, the voice came again without the radio. Please dig. They all heard it, clear as day, rising up through the ground beneath the fire. The flames guttered as if a wind blew upward from the earth. Jess shrieked and stumbled back. Nope, nope, I'm not. The dirt under the fire cracked. A thin seam split in the soil, glowing faintly red beneath the coals. Leah clutched Noah's arm. We need to leave, right now. But Noah stared at the crack, eyes wide. If it's him, I can't leave him. The dig. Against their protests, Noah grabbed the small camp shovel and started scraping at the edges of the fire pit. The others yelled, begged him to stop, but something had taken hold of him. With every shovelful of dirt, the voice grew clearer. Yes, yes, keep digging. The soil seemed softer than it should have been, almost eager to be removed. Soon Noah's hands tore at the dirt directly, nails splitting, blood smearing the earth. The glow widened. Red light pulsed from beneath, painting his face in hellish shades. Jess cried, That's not your brother, Noah. That's something else. But Noah only dug faster, muttering, I'm coming, Caleb, I'm coming. The hole widened until the fire collapsed inward, flames vanishing into the pit. Smoke and heat roared up, forcing the others back. Then, from the pit, a hand reached out. It was pale, skin cracked and blackened like burned paper. The fingers twitched, grasping blindly. Noah seized it without hesitation. I've got you. The hand clamped around his wrist with impossible strength. And then it pulled. Noah screamed as he was yanked down, half his body disappearing into the hole. Tyler lunged to grab his other arm, but the dirt shifted like quicksand, sucking them both down. Leah and Jess scrambled back, shrieking. The hole glowed brighter, smoke belching upward with the stink of rot and sulfur. Then Noah was gone. The earth sealed shut. The fire pit looked as if it had never been disturbed. Dead air. Silence reigned. Only the soft crackle of the remaining firewood remained. Then the radio hissed. Leah and Jess stared as Tyler slowly picked it up with trembling hands. Through the static came Noah's voice. Help me, please. I'm under the campfire. Tyler dropped it like it had burned him. The girls screamed. The fire guttered lower, sparks sinking into ash. And beneath it all, the voice kept whispering, trapped, endless, calling from under the ground. Weeks later, rangers stumbled upon the abandoned camp. 3 sets of gear, a cold fire pit, no bodies. The only thing left was a battered old radio, antenna bent, still hissing faint static. When one ranger idly turned the dial, he swore he heard something. A man's voice. Help me. I'm under the campfire. He switched it off quickly, claiming interference. But when they left, he couldn't shake the feeling that the voice had said his name. Beneath the ashes, the fire had burned down to a low, angry glow, red sparks drifting into the night. Leah, Jess, Tyler, and Noah huddled closer, wrapped in blankets and exhaustion. The past night's horrors lingered in every shadow. The creek, the silent ones, the hanging tree, the knock, the ridge, all etched in memory, echoing in fear. Tyler exhaled shakily. One last story. If we survive it, maybe we'll sleep tonight. Jess frowned. Survive what? Tyler's lips tightened. The remnants, the ashes of everything, the things that were and weren't. Beneath the ashes, the spark. It started with the campfire, a faint glow, unnaturally white, flickering beneath the burned logs. Noah noticed it first. Look, he said, pointing. Something's moving. Leah squinted. The ashes shifted, as if stirred by something alive. Tiny shapes, like curled fingers, clawing through the charred remains. Then they heard it. A whisper, faint and brittle. Come closer. The voice sounded like all of them at once. Their names, their screams, their confessions, layered into a single, chilling tone. Just gagged. It's the fire. That's impossible. Fire doesn't move like that. Tyler swallowed hard. That's what it wants you to think. The ashes awaken. The glow grew brighter. Ashes lifted, swirling, forming shapes. Faces and hands pressed against each other, writhing. Leah stepped back. What is that? Noah whispered, trembling. The ashes are alive. Every horror we've faced left a mark. The creek, the ridge, the hanging tree, the knock, the silent ones, their remnants, their anger, their fear, all of it ended up here. A hand made entirely of soot and bone reached from the embers. Fingers stretched, then curled back, mimicking clawing motions. Tyler's flashlight flickered as another face formed in the ashes. A face that was all of them, pale and hollow-eyed. We never left. The voice, a chorus of every terror they'd survived, echoed from the fire. The first claim, the shapes surged, not physically, but mentally, pressing on them, whispering every secret they tried to bury. Leah's knees buckled. It knows everything. My fears. My lies. Jess screamed as a hand shot out, brushing her arm, but it burned her instead of touching. All yours. Tyler tried to grab a log to push the fire back. The wood disintegrated in his hands. The ashes formed another hand, clawing at his wrist, pulling him closer. Noah screamed, "We have to run!" But the fire had grown into a wall around them, embers snapping like teeth. The night itself seemed swallowed by the glow, echoes of the past. From the ashes, they saw faces familiar and terrifying. The boy from the hanging tree, the shapes from the ridge, Leah's own copy from the knock, and others, twisted versions of themselves. Leah, Tyler, Jess, Noah, all the horrors called their names at once, in tones warped beyond recognition. Leah tried to speak, couldn't. Her throat burned. Jess clawed at the dirt. The ashes responded, clinging, sticking, forming fingers that held her wrists. Tyler kicked at the fire, but each spark rose again as ash forms, flickering into human shapes. Noah whispered, "It's the culmination. Everything we faced. It feeds. Everything we feared. It's alive here, beneath the ashes." The pull, the swirling mass reached out to them, not with hands alone, but with thought, desire, hunger. "Come, stay, be mine." Leah stumbled, trying to flee. Her feet sank into the embers as if walking on solid ground. The fire grew cold in patches, sucking warmth and light, forming shadows like fingers beneath the surface. Jess was pulled down, screaming. Her arm was gone beneath the shifting ash, leaving her trembling hand above the surface. Tyler yelled, "Grab me! Hold on!" But the ashes were stronger, responding to fear, doubt, and hesitation. The fire hissed, spat, and the whispering chorus intensified, each voice a sharp edge cutting into their minds. All who flee belong. The confrontation. Noah, desperate, shouted into the chaos. "We're not yours. We're not." The ash-faced shapes paused. The whispering faltered. "You defy?" "Yes," Tyler screamed. "You're just remnants. Shadows. Nothing but memories of the things that hurt us." Pause. The fire roared in response, throwing sparks like daggers. A figure emerged from the center of the blaze, a shadowy amalgamation of every horror they'd faced. Hollow eyes, long limbs, mouths agape in eternal screams. It moved toward them slowly, every step dragging ashes behind it. "You cannot leave." The escape attempt. Leah remembered something. The creek, the ridge, the tent. "We survived because we didn't look back." Noah nodded. "Right, don't engage. Don't give it power." They bolted toward the treeline. The ashes surged after them, swirling and clawing. Every movement whispered their secrets, tempted them to turn. Look, remember, fear, regret. They ran blindly, embers biting at their legs, the whispering reaching fever pitch. The forest edge came into view. The fire stopped at the line, like the woods itself was a shield. Tyler shouted, "Go!" They crossed the boundary. The ashes swirled, desperate, screaming, but couldn't leave the fire's edge. The lingering threat, breathless, they collapsed in the grass beyond the treeline. The fire in the clearing continued to burn, unnaturally bright, glowing white. Leah whispered, "Is it over?" Noah shook his head. "No, still there, beneath the ashes, waiting, watching, learning. Every spark, every ember carries memory. Every fear we felt fuels it." Jess shuddered. "We survived, but we left pieces of ourselves behind." Tyler looked back at the fire. Faces appeared in the embers, fleeting and haunting, their own, twisted, and in the center, a shadow that was all of their horrors combined. "We are beneath the ashes, always." The next morning, hikers found the campsite. The fire burned low, logs blackened. Tent flaps zipped shut, blankets undisturbed. No one remained, only footprints leading into the forest, and a faint whisper on the wind. "We wait, beneath the ashes." Some campers swear the fire always burns brighter than it should. Others say if you stare too long into the embers, you'll see your own fears staring back, alive, patient, waiting for you to return. And if you ever hear the whispering, do not look down at the ashes, because beneath them it never sleeps. Ashes of Black Hollow. The fire burned low, hissing as pine sap popped inside the wood. Jess wrapped her blanket tighter and leaned closer to the glow. The forest beyond was nothing but shadow, as if the world ended a few feet from their circle of light. "All right," Leah said, her voice carrying that half-grin she always wore before a story. "You two got your creature features and ghost voices. My turn for a history lesson. Want to hear about Black Hollow?" Tyler groaned. "Is that like Sleepy Hollow? Headless horseman and all that?" "No," Leah said. "This one's real. Or real enough." She stared into the flames, letting the silence stretch before she began. Back in the 1800s, there was a settlement in these woods. Just a few cabins, a church, and a sawmill. They called it Black Hollow. Life was rough out here. Bitter winters, poor harvests, sickness. But the people managed. Until the fire. The wind seemed to sigh through the trees, making the fire bend sideways. Jess shifted uncomfortably. "They say it started in the sawmill," Leah continued. "A spark, maybe sabotage, but it spread fast. The cabins were tinder boxes. The whole place went up like kindling. Some folks ran into the woods, but most never made it out. By morning, the settlement was nothing but ash. Charred bones in the streets. The survivors swore they heard screams in the smoke, voices begging for help, and they said the church bell kept tolling, even though the rope had burned to ash." "Okay, that's creepy," Jess muttered. Leah's smile faded. "Thing is, people still hear it. Campers say when the wind dies, you can hear a bell ringing deep in the woods. And sometimes you see them, children in ash-gray clothes, standing just beyond the firelight, watching, waiting. Waiting for what?" Tyler asked. Leah's eyes glittered in the firelight. "For someone to join them." The group fell silent, the forest pressing close again. Then Tyler forced a laugh. "Well, thanks, Leah. Great bedtime story. Anyone else smell smoke? Or is that just me losing it?" But Jess didn't laugh. Her eyes had gone wide. "No, I smell it too. The bell." The scent of smoke lingered long after the story. Acrid, sharp, but no fire around them except their own. When the wind stilled, the woods fell silent. And in that silence came a sound. Distant, faint, bong. A bell. Low, mournful, drifting through the trees. Jess gasped. "Oh my God, tell me you all heard that." Noah frowned, leaning forward. "Could be a church in some town nearby." Tyler shook his head. "We're miles from anything. Closest town's 15 miles south." The bell tolled again. Bong. Longer this time. Closer. The four of them exchanged uneasy glances. Leah's face was pale now. "I was kidding. Just a story. I didn't think." The bell cut her off with a third toll. The fire flickered violently, as if bowing to the sound. And then Jess pointed, her hand trembling. There, at the trees. First, it looked like smoke, a wisp of gray curling between the trunks. Then the smoke thickened into shapes, small shapes, children, 4 of them standing in a row just beyond the firelight. Clothes tattered and gray with ash, faces pale and expressionless, eyes like hollow pits. None of them moved, none of them blinked. They only stared. Jess whimpered. Tyler swore under his breath. And then the bell tolled again. Bong. This time, the children stepped closer. The children of Ash. They didn't make a sound. Their bare feet moved silently over pine needles. The closer they came, the more detail showed. Their skin blistered, their hair singed, their lips cracked and blackened with soot. Jess buried her face in her blanket. No, 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 no. Tyler grabbed the hatchet, holding it uselessly between himself and the figures. Stay back. But the children didn't react. They stopped just short of the firelight, standing perfectly still. Leah's voice shook. Don't look at them. Don't acknowledge them. My grandma said if you pretend you don't see a ghost, it won't bother you. Pretty sure that only works in movies, Tyler muttered. The bell tolled again, closer now, shaking the air. Bong. The children raised their hands in unison and pointed at the fire. Noah swallowed hard. What do they want? The children's voices rose together, soft as wind. Cold. Hungry. Come with us. Leah whimpered. They're not supposed to talk. Oh God. They're not supposed to talk. The bell tolled again. Bong. The fire guttered, flames sinking low as if smothered by unseen hands. The darkness crept closer, and in that dark, more shapes appeared. Dozens. Adults, children, all in ragged, ash-gray clothing. Faces burned and broken. A whole town's worth of ghosts, staring silently into the fire. The ashes stir. Tyler swung the hatchet wildly. Back off. Stay the hell back. But his swing passed through smoke. The figures didn't flinch. Noah scrambled for the radio. Anything for noise, distraction, explanation. Static filled the clearing, shrill and jagged. For a moment, the figures wavered, their outlines blurred, faces twisting. Then the bell tolled again, louder than ever, rattling their bones. Bong. The radio screeched, then went dead. The fire collapsed, plunging them into near darkness. That's when the children stepped forward, into the circle of ash, their hollow eyes locked on Jess. She froze, trembling, unable to look away. One child reached for her hand. Smoke trailed from its fingers. Jess screamed, scrambling back, but the child touched her wrist. For an instant, her skin blackened under its touch. Then her scream cut off as her mouth filled with ash. She gagged, choking, clawing at her throat. The others tried to grab her, but the children swarmed. Smoke poured into her lungs, filling her until her eyes rolled back. When they fell away, Jess lay limp. Ash spilled from her mouth with every shallow breath, and the ghosts turned their hollow eyes to the rest. The hollow claim. Panic erupted. Tyler dragged Jess by the arms, yelling at Noah and Leah to grab the gear. Noah froze, clutching the dead radio like a lifeline. Leah sobbed into her hands. The bell tolled again. Bong. Smoke rolled across the clearing, curling around their ankles, searing cold to the touch. No, no, no. Tyler hacked at it with the hatchet, but the smoke only parted, then reformed. The children stepped closer. Their voices rose, a whispering chant. Stay with us, burn with us. The air grew hot, suffocating. Sparks rained down though no fire burned above. The trees groaned as if warping in heat. Noah shook himself free of shock and grabbed Leah. Run! They bolted into the trees, dragging Jess as best they could. Tyler brought up the rear, swinging uselessly at the figures pressing closer. But no matter which direction they ran, the bell tolled again. Bong. And they found themselves back at the clearing. The fire pit cold. The children waiting. The end of the hollow. Jess stirred weakly, coughing ash, whispering, "It's burning. I can't breathe," before falling still again. Leah screamed at the ghosts, "What do you want from us?" The answer came not from them, but from the bell itself. One final toll, thunderous and final. Bang! The ground split open beneath the fire pit. Flames roared upward, white-hot, consuming the clearing. The figures of Black Hollow stepped into the blaze one by one, vanishing into smoke. And as they went, their hollow eyes locked on the campers, inviting, demanding. Leah felt her body pulled toward it, legs moving without command. Noah clutched her, but the heat seared his skin, forcing him to let go. She walked into the fire with a scream, and then she was gone. Tyler tried to drag Jess away, but her body convulsed and slipped from his grip. Ash consumed her until she too vanished into smoke. Noah and Tyler were the last. The flames circled them, hemming them in. Tyler swung the hatchet in one last wild arc, shouting curses into the fire. But smoke swallowed him mid-swing. He vanished without a sound, and Noah was alone. The bell tolled once more, then silence. Noah stood trembling in the empty clearing. The fire pit looked untouched, as if it had never burned. No ghosts, no friends, only ash at his feet. He fell to his knees, coughing, choking, until his breath came out black. When dawn came, rangers found the camp abandoned. Tents zipped, gear untouched. A thin layer of ash covered everything. And faintly, if you pressed your ear to the ground, you could hear it. The tolling of a bell.